Hello, everybody. My name is Sean Ketchum, and I am the marketing manager for world languages here at Cengage. And I'm glad everybody could join today. For colleagues that may be missing this, if they've registered, we will submit the recording, and we will also post the recording to our services site so you can access this recording later in addition to receiving the recording on your own. A little bit of a different setup for those who may have joined us in some earlier training sessions in other semesters. We are using the Zoom conference feature, which actually has two forms of interaction. There's a Q&A box that you'll see, and that's for the questions directed to the presenter. And there's a chat box just to say hello, network with your colleagues, things like that. And if you do want to communicate with your colleagues, make sure you're selecting all panelists and attendees. But if you do have a question for our presenter, make sure you put that in the Q&A box. And what I'll do is, as we go through each topic, as we get towards the end of each topic, I'll gather together the questions, and then our presenter will answer. So with that, this is our Getting Started with MindTap World Languages for fall 2018. For those of you who have adopted a MindTap World Languages program, we're really, really glad you did, and we thank you, and we hope that you get great results for yourself and your students. And we wanted to walk you through today really kind of the basics of course. There's a lot of possible topics, but we really want to focus on the basics of course setup to get you started, making sure you know how to set your course settings, your activity settings, filtering content, assigning things like that to get you going. And we'll be providing more options to learn more about MindTap as the semester progresses. So this looks ambitious. We do have an hour because probably people aren't going to class in August. We'll try to aim for about 45 minutes and leave some time for general questions at the end. The major topics we'll cover is really just that initial course setup, logging into your course, navigating that instructor dashboard, understanding where your resources are, how to create a course such as a master course with subsections, how to then manage that course to make sure, for instance, students get their print instructions, and then also your other instructor resources like your syllabi and your test banks and all those wonderful things that complement the online experience. We'll then go into the MindTap course. We'll look at the available app doc of resources you have. We'll look at how the ebook works, and then how you do course level settings and also activity settings, how you can filter and then assign based on those filters. And then lastly, once Janet is done, I'll point you guys to some more resources, how students can take advantage of our Cengage Unlimited pricing offer, which is actually now live as of last week, and where your students can go so they know how to get started in the program, as well as LMS and other resources. So with that, I am pleased to introduce Professor Janet Bunch of Northwest Mississippi Community College, who is one of our awesome Cengage faculty partners, and many of you may well have interacted with her as she gave presentations and discussions on the road last spring and summer. But with that, Janet, I'll let you just go ahead and feel free to introduce yourself to the group.
Hello, everybody. Hope y'all are doing great this afternoon. It's great not to be in school for a little bit for me. I just finished up about a week ago summer classes, and I get started again next week, so not a lot of free time for me. If you've read through my little bio that he's got up for you, you can tell that I have been around the language block a couple of times. I'm an avid presenter. I've presented at my state level, my regional level, and I have not really necessarily presented so much at ACTFL, but I have had the joy of working with Cengage in their booth at ACTFL last year and then again this year, and I'm excited about MindTap. It's a cool thing that I think most of you, if you've adopted it, you see a lot of the potential just like I did. I was lucky enough to get to pilot MindTap in the spring, and I was one of 3 faculty partners who was trained last fall to present at ACTFL. So I kind of had a little bit of an insight and then a heads up, and I spent about 2 months traveling once a week for most of my spring and then a little over the summer, and I'm going to be seeing, I think, some more people soon. So I've got a trip to Austin this week and a trip to San Antonio in a couple of weeks, so I may get to meet some of you in person. So I'm going to go ahead and just walk you through setting up MindTap. And I am not a marketer, so I'm just going to tell you this is from an instructor's point of view. What do I think we need to know? And if there's questions I don't get to, please use that Q&A because Sean's going to help me with that Q&A if I miss a question. When I start presenting, I tend to get caught up in what I'm doing, and I will actually, kind of forget about the Q&A box down there. So let me start sharing my screen and let's get started. Okay, so to start off, I always log in directly from the Cengage website. If you're looking at the Cengage website, you see right up here on the side, it has a little arrow a little box that says sign in. Everybody should have a sign in already. It should be set up. So when you go to log in, typically your email and whatever you set your password to be. So if you've not done that, then you can create an account and set up. If you're following along on the computer, which I'm assuming you are because most of you are listening to me, then we're going to have this option. You can see my screen. You're welcome to pull yours up and kind of follow along, kind of the whole monkey see, monkey do, so we can create our product together. So the first step, if you don't already have your product in your resource center here, is you're going to need to get that, and you can search for it if you're not sure, or if you already have it loaded, you can go to it. While I'm at this Instructor Resource Center page, I do want to take a second and pull in a couple of bits of information. Number one, the higher ed faculty community. This is basically a place for those of us who teach college to go in and hang out. We have blogs on here. We have talks on here. You can go and post on a topic or post a topic if you need some help with. It's a great resource. It just kind of is a way of reminding you sometimes that you're not alone. I teach at a community college, which is a satellite campus. I'm the only Spanish teacher, so my only Spanish interaction sometimes comes by going to the higher ed faculty community and talking to some of my friends there. So that's a good place to go if you need some, extra help, or you just feel like you need to, be part of something. Now, another thing you can do as you're going through, if you find you have questions, is right here it says Ask a Faculty Partner. So a faculty partner is basically someone who's been using the product or even using the resources, and we're considered a little bit of kind of an expert in our field. We know it very well. We're very familiar with it. We don't necessarily know everything, but, this is just an easy way to get somebody who is going to know possibly a little more than you. Customer support right here, you can call the 800 number. So that's a good thing if you're ever having any kind of trouble, learning solutions, training, support. If you click any of these, they will take you to where you can get to all of this information. And a lot of times people just skip this information, but I think it's good to know because that 800 number is invaluable to me when I can't log into my MindTap. So, is it down? What's going on? So, just a little heads up there with the sidebars and some of the information where you can reach out for more help if you have questions after the presentation. So, I've already actually got a class. I've already got a product in, and I'm going to use Plazas because Plazas is the textbook that I typically use in my classroom. So, if I were want to set up a class, I'm going to need to come down here after I've got my book and my resource there, and I need to decide what kind of class I want to set up. So first off, I am the only Spanish teacher here on my campus. So when I create a course just for me. However, some of my friends teach at Mississippi State and at Ole Miss, and what do? They have to create a master course. So they have a director who goes in and they set up all the Spanish 1 master course. And then the Spanish 1 master course gets copied out to all the TAs and all the other instructors who are going to be teaching that Spanish 1 class, but they want to set them up so there's a master course before you send it out. So if you're at a major college or university and you have multiple sections, you're probably going to have one person make a master course and then share that course. So just to show you how to create a course, it's very simple. I'm just going to create a regular class. And I have an option, create a new class. Since most of you have not worked with MindTap before, you're going to need to create a new course. So if we click create a new course and continue, you're going to give the course a name. So like you could say, for example, MFL 101. You're going to put your start dates. You're going to put your end dates. You can put the times if you want, or you can leave them blank. So you can put a section number if it helps you. And you would probably want to set your time to make sure that you're going to be having assignments due at the correct time. Sometimes I've had issues with students choosing the wrong time and they were looking at like Eastern or Pacific, and it did mess with the due dates because they thought they were submitting things on time, but it was a little late. So if you're going to have TAs or add an additional instructor, this is where you would log them in here as well. So you could just add that in as you needed to. So when I create a course, sometimes it takes a minute or two for it to appear on my dashboard, but this one's very quick today. So you're going to see a couple of things first. So it has the course, and it has a link that you can send to your students, and it has the instructions. It also has a course key, which if you're familiar with iLearn, we had to give our students a course key to log them in. So I could click either one of these now, or I can come back to them later. I can also manage the course, which I can change the settings, or I can go back to where I started to. So if I go back to my instructor dashboard, you're going to see now that I have 2 courses under my classes course. I have the fall demo course, and I have that MFL 101 course that we just created. So that's the easiest way to create a course. Now, if you want to make sure that you have the correct course or you're managing the correct course, I have a lot of courses because I've done a lot of demos. I have several things set up. I have a couple of French on here and some Spanish as well. But if I wanted to go change something, for example, I have MFL 101 that we just created. Here is that link that I could give my students so they could automatically go and register in the class. I can also print out the student information here on the registration. This is just going to have the key. So this will actually allow me to hide it from myself if I don't want to look at it anymore. Sometimes if you are familiar with our histories, we'll just get very long sometimes, and I don't necessarily need to look at courses from 10 years ago. Okay, and if I wanted to delete the class, so for example, because this is a demo course for purposes, I'm probably going to delete the course when I get done with it. So if you messed up a class, you could go and you could get rid of it. Now I am going to show you something if I want to edit the course out here on the edge. I can go back in and I can actually edit the dates. So, oh, my classes don't start to the 20th. I just made them start too soon. Let me go fix that. So you've got a lot of easy ways that you can go in and kind of create your course. Okay. Now, going back into my Instructor Resource Center, if you're going to create a regular class, which is what I did, it's basically the same thing as creating a master's course. So you're going to just hit Course Master here. You're making a new one from scratch. Hit Continue, and you're going to go through and do the same thing. So once you create the Course Master, so let's call this Spanish 101. And I'm just going to put a B on there so we'll know it's different. Pick a date. Just times again. And then you're ready to create that master copy. So you can customize and go from there. So I've walked you through setting up both a master course and an individual instructor course. Okay. So going back in, let's talk about then, let's talk about setting up the courses. Were any questions? Hold on, I think I see some questions in the Q&A. Okay, so Catherine wanted me to show how to set up a single course, how to set up a master course, and got your question, Catherine. Thanks.
Hey, sorry about that. I was on mute, but yeah. So we covered that, and then there was another question about how often you use the 1-800 number, because it doesn't seem like it's you know, you don't have to use it very often, and we do have the Tech Check site that also lets people know.
Yes, Tech Check, if you're not familiar with Tech Check, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's actually back on the regular Cengage page. You can go see if something's down, like if MindTap was down or iLearn was down or one of the resources was down. It'll immediately show you that so you don't think you're going crazy. So I have only used the 1-800 number, honestly, twice, and that was back when we had iLearn, and iLearn went down, and it was, I said I couldn't get to it on the tech check, so that's only really one time I've ever had to use it. I've actually not had to use the customer support with MindTap. I've had really good luck during my pilot last spring and didn't need it.
Great. And Janet, we have, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead.
We have one more question, just kind of guidance on what you feel like, when to create a master or single section. The professor, she teaches Tuesday, Thursdays. Her colleague teaches Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Should I create a master for her to save time? But then the deadlines might be different for their assignments.
That would kind of, I would say that would be up to you. I look at it as places like, for example, when I think about Mississippi State, which is where I did my master's, we had a Spanish 1 coordinator, and they would make like a master course. And then they would basically give it to all of us TAs and instructors, and we would basically copy their section. So if you want to do your own thing and let her do her own thing, that's fine. Or you could just, switch the due dates. It's just a personal preference of what you prefer to do.
Great.
Okay. So that was course setup. I feel like we're ahead of the game here. I'm supposed to have 10 minutes on that, and we're right at it. So next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to go into the class and to play with it. Now I'm actually going to click my fall demo instead of the course we just created, just because I have a couple of things already set up, and that way I know where they are. When you log into your MindTap course and you see it, you're going to see the way that the screen works here. And this is just a little helpful. Hold on, let me move my video. It's in my way, so I can't get to all my buttons. There we go. So the first thing I'm going to do, just looking at this overall, you have your course assignments over here to the side, and you're going to have your app deck over here. I like to start with the app deck because we tend to forget about it on the side. So the app deck over here, the My Content, and notice that your name is up here. So this is my favorite button because I've learned all the things that I can do with it. For example, I can switch between my courses. So I keep my Monday, Wednesday, Friday separate from my Tuesday, Thursday. And then, of course, my Spanish 1 is separate from my Spanish 2, and then my Spanish 3 and my Spanish 4. So I juggle 4 levels of Spanish pretty much every semester. So going through and switching courses, it's just a fast way where I can go from one class to the other. So the next thing I'll point out is we're going to go through customer settings and customer support and system checks. These are all good to know. The system check is really helpful because it will actually check the computer that you're on and make sure that everything is set up. Oh, look, my Flash is disabled. So I would need to make sure that Flash was enabled to make this work. And this is something you can do very quickly to make sure everything is working on your end so that you know it's not a technical problem and you don't have to use that 800 number. In most of the cases with my students, the pop-up blocker has been a big, huge issue, and then the Flash, because things that don't have Flash, they can't play certain things. So that system check's really handy. I would tell your students if they're going to be setting MindTap up to run that system check as well. That way they'll know what's working and what they need to fix on theirs. So most of these are fairly simple. There's a note where you can highlight, there's a little glossary, there's a dictionary, portfolio, but I really want to just kind of jump and show you the ebook. So we can access the ebook 2 ways. We can access the ebook through the app deck over here on the side, and you can make it bigger if you want. I'm not going to, just because when I'm screen sharing like this, sometimes it does something wonky to the screen. And to navigate the ebook, you can just click the chapters, and then you could go to the topic that you wanted to. For example, if I wanted to talk about the vocabulario de la casa, I could click la casa. I can bring this picture up, and if I click this, it'll make it bigger, so I can actually pull this up and project it in the classroom. And I can use the picture if I want to walk around with my students and ask them, for example, ¿Dónde está la cama? ¿En qué cuarto está la bañera? So we can go ahead and use this in the classroom so they have the words in front of them. I use the ebook a lot when I teach for vocabulary, and I like to follow up my vocabulary presentations by going through and doing the activities with my students together. For example, this textbook activity, I don't expect them to do it for homework. I would use this to practice in class, and that way I'm consistent across all of my Spanish 1 sections because I have 5 Spanish 1 sections this fall. I want to be consistent across those and make sure I cover the same thing so that when I get to Spanish 2 in the spring, we make sure that, everything has been the same. I'm very big about being consistent. Now, in addition to being able to locate the ebook here on the app deck, you can actually locate the ebook down here at the bottom of the content as well. And the main difference is just going to be in the app deck, it displays smaller, and this has the individual chapters already. So if I went back to that En la Casa again, so you're going to see that it's going to have that same vocabulary, but now it's taking up the whole page versus taking up that little side to the part. So here's my same picture. I can make it bigger if it's not bigger. You can also change the size of the font here. So this only changes the size of the font, though this does not change the size of the pictures. So that's just a little heads up, so you can make it bigger or smaller. And you can take it back to the contents. And we can edit the ebook. I'll talk about that more if I have time, but I want to make sure I get through all the other places first. That pencil always means that something's editable, so we can actually change this and update and add like videos, and we can add websites and other things that we want to link. So you can customize the ebook to make it your own. So that's just a little bit about the ebook. Going on down, ConnectYard is kind of like it's kind of like social media, like Instagram and other things where your students can kind of interact with each other, and you can create flashcards. And the last one is your grade book and your progress. Because I don't have any students in my grade book right now, I can't really manipulate it. So we'll come back to that if we have time a little bit later and talk more about the grade book. So that was the app deck in that first little setting. So after I go through and was showing you right here on the side about the course settings. So when you want to set up your courses, this kind of goes back to what we've already done. So first off, who can access your class dashboard, how your class is going to show up, apps that you might want to add in or out for MindTap. That's going to be something we're going to hear more about as MindTap is more fully developed, that there may be some things that are more specific to foreign language. Activity settings are definitely going to be one that we're going to talk a lot about, and we'll come back to gradebook later on. But I do want to talk about activity settings. So the activity settings, if you're familiar with MindTap at all, it's based upon that 5-step learning process. The ready, which is the pre-learning activities, the learn it, which is the actively learning it, practice it, which is making sure that we know the activities by practicing them. The use it is creating in the language, whether it's speaking or writing. And the guided is a review activity. Now, going through those activities, the way that we can manipulate them is we can actually change the way that the whole set behaves by clicking on it. So ready activities typically are only going to be allowed to be submitted when they're 100% correct. Some teachers think that's just too nice. They think that you should not get unlimited attempts and get them all right. Me personally, for ready activities, they're pre-learning. I think there's no right or wrong learning when students are processing, so I leave this alone. But if you wanted to be a little more stringent, you could give them multiple attempts to improve score. So personally, ready to me does not teach enough to have that there, so I probably wouldn't change that. You can also change when it shows the correct answer. You can show when it shows it, for example, immediately. And you can actually change the percentage that they have to have if you want to do this. So credit, no credit, accent scoring. So if you wanted to allow them to submit something without an accent mark, just click it. Or if you wanted to allow them to submit something without making the capitals match, that's fine. So you can very quickly change that in this, and then you'll need to save that setting. And it's now changed that setting for all of the ready activities. So if I want to do the same thing for Learn It, So if I want to be able to let them miss accent marks and miss capitalizations, I can switch that again. I can also change, again, once again, how they're submitted. I personally don't change the learned activities because to me this is when they're actively learning, and I tell my students all the time that there is no wrong way to learn something, but so I give them unlimited attempts, and I only give them 100% because to me this is a way of making them feel good about themselves when they're learning, that they're getting it right and they're not getting discouraged. So I'm going to save that setting and move on. So when I go to the next block is going to be the practice it block. Now the practice it block is set multiple attempts to improve score. This is, you can't move backwards on this one, but you can change the number of attempts that you want the students to have. For example, my online classes, I might give them more attempts than my live classes, because my live classes I can give them feedback every day. My online classes, I only interact with them through email, internet, and through the LMS. So maybe I want to be nicer with them. So I can also change when I want to show the correct answer. So after the due date, after the last attempt, after activity completion, never. So it depends on how nice or how mean you want to be. So you can also show the correct marks, and you can show feedback depending on where you would like to do it. And once again, if you would like to give them credit for missing accent marks or tildes, etc., then you would click these, and if you want to allow them to submit things without having the capitals in the correct place, then you can do that as well. Once you change this for the whole block, then you're going to see that it's going to allow you to modify each one individually. For example, I probably would make my students have accent marks and capitalizations on the use it activities because it's going to be a creation activity. A creation activity to me is a little more, it's a little bit heavier weight because they are actually taking the material and using it to create something that speaks to them and speaks about their life. So I tend to be a little more stringent on that activity because I want them to show me that they know where those accent marks and they know how to capitalize words. So I may just leave these alone and not change them for the use it activities. Now the last topic is the got it as far as our learning path, and that's that same concept. You can change the attempt, you can change how you submit them, you can put the accent, capitalization, etc. And I would do that personally on the front end just because I know what I want the accents to match and what I want the capitals to match on. And that way it's done and I don't have to think about it. So it's kind of a little bit with the course settings. Now test and quiz is going to work the same way. I think that most of you get the point that I just basically changed every setting for every learning path. And my course is now ready for me to get started assigning activities. So when we start talking about assigning activities, that's when we need to kind of talk about this side. So looking at this side, it has two ways of looking at the screen. The outline view, which is what we're currently using, and the calendar view or the week view. If you go to the week view, this is actually how it defaults in the student. And anytime you hit the calendar view or the week view, it only shows activities that currently have a due date. So this is why I wanted to use this course. I could show you that I set up in my demo course a couple of classes, and the way I did this is it's just showing what's due by that week. Now, if you'll notice when we're going through that week view and we're looking at the calendar view, I have these due at 9 a.m. Why do I have these 3 activities due Wednesday at 9 a.m.? Because this would be something I would have my Wednesday students do before they came to class. They're the reading and the practice, the reading and the learning activities. I did throw one practice activity in there just to kind of see, make sure they were paying attention. If you'll notice, these are the same topic, that same vocabulario, and I have these due Friday at 9 a.m., so I want them to do the homework, the practice that comes with those before they come to my class at 9 o'clock on Friday morning. So if you're doing a flipped classroom or if you're doing an online class, this would be an easy way of making sure your students are completing things in a timely manner and that they are going to be doing that. It's harder to assign things from the week view because it's based on assignment dates. It's a lot easier to move things around for us in the outline view. So you can just toggle back and forth between the two views. You also have the option where you can set it over here in your course settings if you wanted to look at which view. So I leave mine in this outline view because it's easier, as I said, to manage. Okay. So when I've assigned activities, when I want to assign activities, I actually need to basically edit the content that we have here. But I need to know what the content is, and they're divided into chapter folders. So if I go to this chapter folder, so I was talking about my vocabulario assignments a while ago. So if I just click vocabulario, it shows me all the activities that I have here. Now I went ahead and assigned a couple of these, so you'll see they have the due date. Now if I want to assign these activities, that means I want to edit them. And I'm just going to click edit, and did you see how it went green? And now I have the edit button and the hide button. So I can do a couple of things from here. I can assign activities from here. So I can click on activities, or I can say I want to do the whole deck. If I click this so if I click that, it'll pick every activity in the deck. So what do I mean by the deck? So it assigned everything that was underneath that one little thing. So these are what we call planks in MindTap, just because they look like a big long plank. If you look at the plank, it marks them. If you don't want to do them, you can uncheck them, and you can take them out of that. So I just did an assignment, and this is called a batch action, and this means that I can assign all of those, and I can change my date, and I can also change when they're available. So if I don't want to put an available date on there, I can actually take that out completely. Some teachers like to do this because it keeps their students from working ahead. So you can put an available date, and then I have multiple due dates. So maybe I want to change them and make them all due on, let's say, the 10th. And by default, it's 11 p.m. So let's just assign all of those and save them. So now I've assigned that set of activities. Okay. Now, when I'm going through, did you notice that I was actually missing an activity? It went from 9 to 11. Well, what I did was when I was assigning activities was I actually hid an activity. If you hide an activity, it means that the students can't see it, and actually you can't see it unless you unhide it. So now do you see this activity says show? So if you have some activities you don't want your students to do and you don't want them to get into, if you'll hide them, then they're not going to be able to access them. And it's going to remove them from activities that the students can see. So you're not overwhelming them sometimes with too much information. You can hide things that you don't want to use. So you're really customizing the course to make it fit, the way you envision your course running. Now, in addition to, I'm still in edit, I'm still showing, so I can very quickly just click these, and that will also allow me to create there. But if I decide I wanted to go edit one of these activities, so we talked about editing the whole group. What if we want to edit an individual assignment? So if I want to edit an individual assignment, let me grab a different one. I don't want to do one of the audio ones. Let's see. We'll use this one. So if I want to edit an assignment, I click the assignment. And this one, when I assign it and I change it individually, it's going to overwrite anything that I might have already picked in my practice assignments. So when I click this edit options, I can edit this individual assignment. Now, this individual assignment is going to be edited in my course forever. It does not go back. For example, if you have a master course, if one of the instructors changed it, it would not change back to the master course. Now, in going through, there's a couple of things that I can edit. I can edit the points. So if I wanted to change that from 4 points to 8 points, I can. This one is actually locked for editing, so I'm not able to edit it. It's locked. But I could edit right there. So I can go look at the little button here, and it shows me the practice it's setting, so I can see what I had done previously. So if I needed to go back and double check it, if I didn't remember how I had set this up. So that one I can't edit. Let me see. I'm going to go back, see if I can find one that's editable. Okay, maybe we can do the problemas matemáticas. We can edit it. Some of the activities, multiple choice activities, you can add more answers, or you can add more acceptable answers. Oh, it didn't give me the edit, it gave me the activity. I think I clicked it instead of the edit options anyway. So edit assessment options. So in looking at this, I can change the points. And I can change activity, let's see. Usually I can click on it and do it. There we go. So expand it. And if I wanted to add something in, for example, 29 in Spanish, you can write 29. It's two different ways. So maybe I want to add in the old way of answering it, which was to type in 20, 29. And I want to set that up as an acceptable answer as well. So I can go back, add that to my dashboard, and if there was something else I wanted to add in as well. So it's just an easy way of updating material. This is a really good way. So for example, with numbers that I picked here, I learned my numbers for 16 through 29 as a 3-word combination. But in the 2000s, they started teaching this 1-word combination. I accept both, I know both, but I find that some of my students had high school Spanish teachers that they know that 3-word combination, so I set it up where it's customizable. Another example of that for me is my textbook actually uses the word armario for closet, and I never use armario for a room that's a closet. I always use the word ropero. So like I went and could change the answer from armario to ropero, or to make them both acceptable answers. So I'm changing my answers individually and adding more activities or more right answers. And when I do this, as I said, this is going to change these in my personal course. This is not going to change Cengage's course, but when I copy this course next semester, I don't have to change these again. All of these things are already set up. So when you're going through and doing all of these setups, your first semester is probably your most important, and it takes a little bit longer to set up the first time because you do go through and you do check these individual activities, but they're an easy way that first time to make sure that we've got them right. So that's kind of individually changing so an assignment to make it fit and conform to what you want it to do or to what you feel would be, an effective practice. And once again, remember, you can change the number of the points. So if you wanted to say something was more important than something else, you can change that, for example, from 10 to 20. Or you could make it where it would be maybe only 6 points. So this is kind of where you create your own course. Okay, so that is assigning activities and kind of editing an activity. I kind of mix those two together. And you do want to save it. As a heads up, if you do save it, it does take anywhere from like 20 to 30 seconds, it seems like, to make it update. So be patient with it. Sometimes I've had it take up to a minute for an assignment to change as far as the points or to update with the new activities and the new answers. It's just because it basically has to go reload the course again and save it back from the external servers is how I phrase it. I say it gets sent out to space and comes back in, and then it's fixed. So I'm trying to think, what else have I got to do? Oh, filters, that's what we need to do. So when I was assigning activities, some of you were like, that's too much work, I don't want to go do all that. So we have these filters. that have been built in by Cengage, and there's a couple of nice things here. So number one, if you want to only assign activities that counts towards their grade, you click that. If you only want to assign practice activities, you can click this. So this was a big one for me. Several of my coworkers that are adjuncts, they only ever want to assign auto-graded activities. Now, why do you only want to assign auto-graded activities? Well, maybe because you don't have the time to grade the other ones. So anything that's not auto-graded is actually going to disappear once you click that. So when I was talking earlier, I told you that the vocabulary, the readies, the learn-its, the practices are all auto-graded. So you're going to see that the use-its have disappeared. And why have the use-its disappeared? Because the use-its typically are going to be manually graded. So there are some that are auto.
Janet, you may have frozen for a second there.
Did I?
Ah, now you're back.
I'm back.
Maybe it was a dramatic pause.
My internet connection is unstable. Oh no. So let me see. If I paused, did you see where I was filtering?
Yes, I saw. Go ahead and open again quickly and just maybe that last point about auto-graded.
Okay. So the filter is for us to grade things, find things very quickly. So if I unclick this, if I want to clear it, everything is visible, everything shows. So if I click auto-graded, the only thing that's going to now show up are things which are graded by the computer. My adjuncts that work with me at night, they only want to assign auto-graded activities. So they would click this and they would go through because they never want to grade anything manually. So did you notice that some of the activities disappeared as I clicked one or the other? You can also narrow it down. So I want to do just auto-graded activities on culture. So if I were to click, let's see, capítulo 7, and I click this, so it's going to show me just activities that relate to auto-graded and to culture. So I've got two filters. I can keep adding filters. So maybe I want to just do auto-graded and multiple choice. Once again, I had a lot of things just disappeared, didn't they? If I click over here to the side, I now just have a ready and a learn it that are showing up. A ready and a learn it. There's no more use it. The practices have disappeared because I've filtered it down to multiple choice. So you can take your filter and you can use it to find whatever type of activity you want to do. So my online classes, for example, I'm going to make them talk to me using these individual video recordings. Why do I want an individual video recording? Because if they're online, it's hard for them to work within a group, so it's easier for me to do that. So I can go through and look for these activities and I can search for them, and they're the only thing that's going to show up because that's all I'm looking for. So I could go through and hunt till I found one that did have the information I wanted. In chapter.
Hey, Janet, you froze for just another second there.
Goodness.
That said, you can find the information that you want. And actually, this is a really handy, the filtering is a pretty handy tool just in terms of deciding what to grade or even just viewing which, or even viewing sort of what kind of content you kind of want to look through, not just auto-graded, you know, but maybe for your online courses, you want to make sure you assign the open-ended stuff because they're not getting as much practice face-to-face, and those would be the ones, if you see under activity type, the first group is the auto-graded, and then after drag and drop, video recording, audio, essay, discussion, those are those open-ended ones that, again, if you have a hybrid or online course where they're not getting as much collaborative work, you'd want to make sure you would assign those for your online courses. Sorry, Janet, that's my little spiel.
It's okay. I'm having some internet issues. I'm sorry. So
That never happens in the world.
kind of gone through the filters, and I showed you how to assign, how to hide. Let's see. I'm trying to think how to edit an activity, and I think that's actually all I had on my deck to go through. Man, I'm right at 45 minutes. Do we have any questions or anything that y'all want me to run back through? I told you if I had time, I was going to run back through and show you how to update the ebook. Is there any questions before I do that under the Q&A?
I think we're good so far. Why don't, given that we have a little bit more time, a few more minutes, why don't we go into that how to edit the ebook topic?
Okay.
And then I can close with some additional resources and videos that people can check out.
Okay. So under your Plazas ebook, and you can do this under either book, I'm just going to go to, I've still got the filters on. Make sure your filters are off because otherwise you can't find anything. So there's an example of the filter at work. So just to grab something, we're going to say mucho gusto, which is the preliminary chapter, and I'm going to go grab the vocabulario from En una clase de español. And in going through and doing this, I'm just going to jump into that vocabulary page. Now, if I want to go edit into this, so I'm going to click this, and you're going to see these little pluses, and this just very quickly says add here. So, for example, if I wanted to add in, and I'm just going to click right here, if I want to add in a web video, so a YouTube video. So I click the button, it takes me to the search. I'm going to search for YouTube, and let's go for Spanish greetings. So maybe I want them to see what an abrazo and what a beso, how Hispanic people do, like the kisses on the cheek and the little hugs. Maybe I want to go find one of those. Now, I'm not really watching this, but we're just going to grab one to make it easier. I could watch it if I wanted to. Hit continue. And the other wonderful thing about this is because this is through Cengage, you don't get all those lovely little spam and ads and commercials on here. So I'm going to put optional video. And then I could put something else in if I wanted to. I'm going to hit continue. And now underneath where I told it to insert it, it's put in my little YouTube video, and it's linked directly into the ebook that my students can see. And I don't have to update this but one time, because when I copy my course next semester, everything that I've already done is going to be in it, including these videos. Now, if you decide you don't like the video, you can actually come over here and click remove, and you're deleting it, and now it's gone. So that's just inserting like a web page. Now, another thing I like to use when I'm talking about, let's see, backwards. So when I'm talking about verbs, there's a website I like to use. Hold on. So verbs starting capítulo 1. So if I wanted to go to talking about AR verbs, so if I wanted to put a link into the website that I like to use, which is Spaleon, I can go through, and I think I'm going to put it over here in front of the activities. So click my ebook again. Before I get to a practicar, I'm going to have here, and I'm going to web link activity. And I tell them that I want them to go to www.spaleon.com, spaleon.com. So now I can put this website in, and I'm going to say it is a Spanish verb conjugation trainer. Okay. So if I save it, then it's going to have this in here. Okay. That doesn't look like that worked exactly right. So in there it will pull up my website that I was talking about that I like to let my students go to. So I've linked that directly into the ebook so my students can get to it and they don't have to write down the web name or anything else with personalizing the website, the ebook. So it also tells you that you can add the Kaltura. I've not used the Kaltura media, but at this point I'm probably going to start trying to explore a little bit more what there is. But I do know I use web videos a lot, especially YouTube's, and it's also nice to have any links that we would have in there. Like if you wanted to have your students doing a project, you could link in there. My students have to link art and other things when we get to the chapter on art, and they have to show a picture of their favorite work of art, sculpture, etc. So that's linking in and customizing the ebook. And I am going to just pull these back down out of here so that we don't have them in the way for the next time I demo the course.
Very good point. Okay. I know a couple folks have to drop off, so I don't see any further questions. And we'll also, let me switch to my screen share. I want to point you guys to, where to go, getting started. My little PowerPoint there. Let me quickly answer. Oh, there was a question, can students also add in links? And the answer is yes. Yes, they can also edit and they can edit and change their ebook too. They can add things. They can also highlight things and things like that. I know people have to jump off. Very quickly, the Cengage Unlimited offering, which is $119.99 for access to all Cengage programs regardless of the course. And for language students, it gives us 4 semesters of access. So if they register their MindTap language course, it will give them 4 full semesters for $119.99. That is now live, and they can check that out. They simply search for the course or the ISBN, and they're in. The nice thing about that is it also gives them access to all of our other Spanish and French resources for free, like our grammars, our conversation guides, and other resources. So that's something that we want to make sure folks check out. And there's just a lot in there, especially if they're taking more than one course that uses Cengage. More resources, and we have emailed students who have are in MindTap courses for the fall as they register. There's cengage.com student/training, which is where they can get kind of a guided tour of what they're working on or what they need to do to sort of get in and get started. For you guys, it's that training MindTap link, which is also where we'll post this video. Unlimited is simply, cengage.com unlimited. I don't know why that did that. Sorry, my mouse is sensitive. And also cengage.com/world languages. We're going to reboot that in a couple weeks to have a lot more information on your courses. That's what you'll go to. We'll post information for those of you going to New Orleans for ACTFL. We'll also post information on other activities and resources that you guys may want to use as you start working with MindTap. Let's see, do we have any other? I'm going back to the chat. Very good presentation, Janet, from a couple people in the chat, in case you're checking that out. And again, yes. And again, this is just the start of, you guys are getting started. We want to really focus in this session on the tools and resources just to really get you started. We'll be providing more resources for you guys as you progress in your courses. And if people want a refresher that's live, there was a question, can you sign up for Thursday? Absolutely, you're free to do so. If you want to get sort of more live questions and interactions on that. We have the same session time on Thursday with a different presenter who is actually using our French program, but the topics will be, of course, the same in terms of functionality. So with that, I think if there's no more questions, I want to thank everybody for your time. Good luck with your back to school preparation, and feel free to reach out to your Cengage teams with any help you might need.